Hey guys, how's it going? Michael Troy here. Today we're looking at limited collector's edition Batman's Strangest Cases. This huge treasury size artifact slash facsimile edition is so beautiful. I cannot wait to share it with you guys. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button and let's get right into it. Okay, this is so cool. I love it. Look how big this is. It's too big to even fit in full screen. But whatever, I'm not going to do it on my bed like I did giant size Hush because I have like 5 other reviews to do and whatever. You don't need to know the details. I love this little crisscross pattern here. I've been on the quest for probably a good year now to, if not longer, to figure out if there is a name for this. The style, the exact sort of juxtaposing zigzag of the lines. I love it so much. Who did this cover? I don't know. Is it signed? Why is it not signed? It's so weird. They're so like sketchy with the credits back in the day with comic books. The greatest Batman stories ever published, written and drawn by the world's best comic book creators: Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams, Len Wein, Bernie Wrightson, Frank Robbins, Dick Giordano, and Irv Novick. They are not lying. That is an unaliver's row of talent right there. Batman's Strangest Cases contents. Batman goes on vacation to Scotland, but it turns into a visit to the House of Mystery, Redwater Crimson Death. Back to Gotham City, but it's a city walked by the most awesome of man monsters, the Swamp Thing, Knight of the Bat. Who is the Batman? Is he Bruce Wayne, playboy turned manhunter, or is he really the Batman nobody knows? The Dark Knight detective has been haunted many times, but never by as alluring a specter as the demon of Gothos Manor. A true classic, the masked manhunter stalks a circus sideshow, and his vengeance comes from a vow from the grave. I love this so much. This is pre my era of comic books. The Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil Batman is legendary, and it's so cool to see it in this format. I love these facsimile editions. Now, facsimile is an exact replica reprint of a comic book the way it was published back in the day. Of course, the paper stock is usually different. Sometimes they give them a foil cover or a variant cover. I'm cool with the foil and not the variant so much. Like, that feels like revisionist history to me in a way. And of course the price tag. Oh my gosh, could you imagine when this came out? It was probably like $2, $2.50, and now it's like $15. You know, this week in comics took a huge hit on my wallet, but it is so good. I'm so happy with all these comics. I've had so much joy reading all of them. They are beautiful. Writer Denny O'Neil, artist Neil Adams, editor Murray Boltinoff. So this is like a collection of Batman's weird stories. Like, you know, he's used to fighting like criminals of Gotham, and this are more like supernatural and things like that. And his like first meeting of Swamp Thing, which is so cool. I totally missed the boat on Swamp Thing, as I mentioned before. And what a mistake. I love it. I need to revisit it. I need to visit it. This is so cool. What is this story here? Is this the one? Okay, so ridiculously, Commissioner Gordon thinks that Batman's being overworked, so he sends him on a vacation to Scotland. And of course, no good can come from this. He immediately befriends a young boy. Like, is that a problem? Like, no matter where you go, you find the young boy Batman. Just saying, I'm not trying to imply anything, I promise you. That, because I love Batman and Robin. That is so cool. I love that. Like, this must have been so exciting. Like, I don't know. Neil Adams did bring a lot of, like, really cool shit to comics. Look at this. The way he's, like, swimming through these tidal waves. And he's just Batman, mind you. They would so be dead by now. But anyway, that's the joy and beauty of comics and the suspension of disbelief, you know, and fantastical things and miracles happening. Love the vision that he sees in the waves here. This is so good. I just love the wonky panels. He leaned hard into that and during his X-Men run, I feel, but I'm sure it's present throughout. What a great silhouette panel. Oh my God, that is so beautiful. You can definitely see where Frank Miller may have gotten some of his inspiration. Neil Adams was very influential on a lot of like huge, prominent, legendary comic book artists such as John Byrne and Neil Adams, just to name two of the most top tier that I can think of off the top of my head. I love this little narrator character. Is this Kane, I guess, from the House of Secrets, telling this tale. I love how he kind of shows up, and he's not so much like the Watcher in that I feel like he kind of can interject in a way. I feel like he's fudged a few things, and I don't know if there's rules in here or not. I don't know if anyone was anyone like doing amazing things with Batman's cape before Neil Adams. I just think some of this is so cool the way it is rendered, and I love it. And just like Neil brought so much to every aspect of comics. Like his fight choreography is amazing. Just his storytelling chops, his draftsmanship is beautiful. Apparently this is inked by Neil himself, which is my usual preference when it comes to Neil Adams art. But I used to decry Dick Giordano a lot, but I cannot deny the amazing combination of Dick Giordano and Neil Adams. I mean, all you have to do is look at this art and see it. Not that this is, this looks like such a classic Batman. It's like what you realize, and this is kind of the fun of these treasury size too, is that, facsimiles, is that you sort of see things, you see images that you may have seen elsewhere, maybe used in, I don't know, reviews or historical stories or even licensing or something like that. And then, or you see where an artist may have drawn inspiration from like different poses and different things that happen within the confines of these pages. Another thing I noticed was interesting in the Giordano inks. I learned not too long ago, and it makes perfect sense. This is gorgeous, you guys. Oh my gosh, so good. Love the coloring here. Absolutely beautiful. The zipatone is amazing. I don't know, that's just so great. I can see why Batman was like so popular and had such a renaissance under the tutelage of this creative team. It's just jaw-dropping. But I was saying, and we'll get more into it in the chapter that Giordano inked, so remind me, but Klaus Janson was a student of Giordano, and it all makes sense now. A Len Wein writer, Bernie Wrightson illustrator, Joe Orlando editor, presentation. So I was really taken by the beauty of the letters here, and I imagine that Bernie Wrightson was a letterer to an extent, but I don't know that for sure, and I have no idea. And this is a point where letterers are not necessarily getting credited. So he may or may not. If somebody knows that if Bernie lettered this and would love to tell me in the comments, I would be so grateful for that information, because I'm just as much in love with the lettering as I am every aspect of this. And the comics does not deserve art this good. This Bernie Wrightson is such a master. I've always been a fan. It's so weird though, because I discovered him basically through like Stephen King's cycle of the werewolf, and then he started doing comics like The Weird and The Cult. And I just thought he was kind of this random like sci-fi artist who was like really revered for things like Frankenstein, which, oh my gosh, if you haven't seen his Frankenstein, how are you still able to see? So I didn't think he did that many comics. So like seeing this is just like so much fun for me to see, like just like I drank in every page. It took me so long to read this. The art is absolutely beautiful. The details and every little shadow, the street, the head, the street lights, the sidewalk, the garbage can, every little window and silhouette. I mean, it is just so beautiful. Some of this, like, this is so iconic for such a tiny, tiny little panel. I thought it was kind of funny because it's describing him as sort of like jumping up, but I guess he's in the city, in the, I don't know, is he? The penthouse apartment. Okay, so that makes sense. I thought he was coming from the mansion, like out in the outskirts, and I was like, he needs the Batmobile, doesn't he? love the cityscape. I just cannot believe, like, Bernie Wrightson gave so much. Like, I don't know, like, when I see art like this, I just think the artist just must absolutely love drawing absolutely everything. To draw like the view of this sort of like worm's eye view of this corporate table with this meeting at Wayne Corp, Bruce Wayne on the end. The storytelling is just like killing me here. I just can't take it really. And also, I'm thinking that Bernie may have perhaps colored in himself, which wasn't super commonplace for someone to color themselves, but more commonplace for someone like Bernie to do it, if that makes sense. The Zipatone here is amazing. I just, like, I need more Bernie in my life. I know that there's more Bernie Batman out there, and Swamp Thing for sure. I don't know why, like, I think I just missed it, you know what I mean? And Swamp Thing, and that was my problem. But admittedly, like, my brother was huge in the Man Thing. We thought of Swamp Thing as kind of like DC's ripoff. I know it was probably the reverse, but what do kids know, right? And that's just kind of how we rolled. Look at this out on the dock. Like, it's just beautiful. It is so beautiful. When my channel is very heavily focused on the art, and when I talk about, like, being a comic book artist is no joke. You literally have to know how to draw everything, because there is nothing, especially a writer who doesn't draw will ask you to draw, because they have lofty goals, really. But look at this. This panel is so reminiscent of, like, his Frankenstein, really. Like, the laboratory, all the detail there. I mean, did this begat that? I wonder, in conjunction, like, when that happened in his career as opposed to this happening in his career. And he really just is such a master storyteller. And I also want to say props to Len Wein. I feel like Len Wein, I always associate him with, Giant Size X-Men #1, and that's really the extent of my Len Wein experience. And every time I do get one of these, facsimile artifacts, and there's a story by Len Wein, I'm just so taken by what a great writer he is. You can really see how he cemented his, place in comic book history as an editor and a writer. I mean, he's just so good. Like, I just really find this story so compelling and engaging and original, and I just love it. Like, I love the way Batman's depicted here. He looks stunning. Actually, maybe this is the era. I don't know. Let's go further back. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, Dick Sprang is, like, one of the Bat artists that has always appealed to me. I'm sure because of the Batman TV show opening credits, and that's like a nut I want to crack eventually. But I'm wondering if he did any of this. Like, that is just so beautiful. And if this is not in an artist edition somewhere and needs to be, Act 4, Scott Dunbier, are you listening? We need, like, a Bernie Wrightson DC. I mean, I feel like there have been Bernie Wrightson artist editions, but we need more for sure. I just love the brushwork so much. Like, inking is such a beautiful part of comic book art that takes a skill set that you would not believe. Like, a skill set beyond penciling. A lot of inkers know how to pencil and are well-rounded artists all around, painters, whatnot. You are painting essentially if you're inking with a brush, and I've always been so jealous of people who just ink with a brush. Like, I think Brian Ballin, before he went all digital, inked with a brush. And how do you get those crazy little detailed lines? This dog is funny. I love how not only amazing the footnote in history is, as far as, like, just events and creative teams and, exciting new art and things like that, but also kind of the charmingness of the sign of the times. Like, he knows that this is Swamp Thing's dog, so he's just gonna follow it to, and that is because, I don't know, like, it doesn't take the world's greatest detective to figure that out, but I just kind of loved it at the same time. Sometimes the most obvious answer is the best answer, right? It's just a lot of fun. I love the way his cape is just kind of draped over him as he's fallen here. I love his the fact that Swamp Thing has been holding back this whole time. And now, see, this is sort of unknown to me too. I felt like Swamp Thing had the ability to speak, and maybe that's something that developed over the course of his evolution. I'm not sure. But he's like, he's unable to tell Batman that he's on his side. And maybe his inability to communicate with humans and showing them always being rotted is part of the shtick of it all. I don't know. See, look at this, how great this is. Like, this is when coloring becomes part of the art too, the silhouette of the building and the distance there. And just, I don't know, the negative space of these blacks is just so gorgeous. You know what I mean? It's just so beautiful. It just really is. I need to see this in black and white. So much fun. Swamp Thing scales the outside of the building, and it talks, and this is where narration is good in comic books, because it talks about him creating like handholds by physically forcing them as he scales the wall. Meanwhile, human Batman has to take the stairs inside. He is, faster than Swamp Thing. I'll give him that. But then, I don't know, it's just so great. And of course, they meet on the inside. There's this altercation with the fat cat corporate businessman who, basically, this is Swamp Thing's revenge. So it's kind of cool that it's happening with Batman involved here. And, of course, he decides, I can't do it. I can't, kill him as much as I want to. And, so this little ape experiment creature that his, like, I don't know, his minion sort of bites him and he falls off the balcony. But, it's such a trope, the bad guy falling to their end. And I just, it exists for a reason. It never disappoints, right? Also interesting to note how this page, this is back in the day from when comics sort of would be broken up by a half page of advertising and a half page of story. Just so bizarre. And I don't know if that's exactly what happened here, but something like that happened here. Or maybe just next issue, and then when they collected it, they put this in. But who knows? I don't know. I love it either way. This, story by Frank Robbins, art by Dick Giordano. And once again, and hate me if you want, but I'm not the biggest Dick Giordano fan. I hated his inks on John Byrne's Man of Steel. Maybe I need to revisit it. I don't know. I have likened up to him in certain ways, but some of it just does not appeal to me. But this is actually the story that made me see where the Janssen-ness, if you know what I mean. Like, if Janssen is a disciple, and Giordano famously used, if he's penciling and inking, he's probably using his assistant students here. And this has Janssen vibes all over it. So I'm going to throw caution to the wind and say with a lot of confidence that I'm guessing that Klaus Janson had a lot to do with helping ink this story here. And I do love that. I can't lie. And it is also funny. So Bruce Wayne takes these, kids from the ghetto, it literally says that in here, out camping. And then, so they see a bat, and of course, they all give their version of what they think. It is kind of fun. I love it because Batman is portrayed quintessentially as this sort of myth or legend or whatever. So people who haven't seen him firsthand to begin with have their idea of who he is, what he looks like. And I kind of love it because these kids see them through their, the angle or their vision, and it's kind of fun at the same time. And the colors are beautiful here. I really love this. And then, because, it wouldn't be a Batman story if it didn't have Batman in it. He has to jump out in costume to show them what he really looks like. But the gag of this whole story, the thing that I love that is so great and shows the amazing writing going on in this era, is that to sum up the whole story, he says, whatever else it proves, the Batman's frightening image scares the guilty, not the innocent, because they're not afraid of him. I love that so much. I feel like that is one of the greatest summations of Batman that I've ever read in my life. Story, Denny O'Neil, art, Irv Novick, and Dick Giordano. The art on here is beautiful, and I feel like maybe sometimes Dick Giordano phoned it in, and sometimes he just was firing on all pistons, and it probably depended on who he worked with. I do think he might have had a penchant for like pretty girls, so there is a pretty girl in the story, and maybe that inspired him. And plus Irv Novick, I don't know. I feel like he just came onto my radar, but I know like he's famous and legendary. So, and obviously you can see the beauty in his art here. It looks very classic, very heavy and dark, very like EC and Tales from the Cryptish. Obviously that's the type of vein for the story, but look how pretty she looks. I love the inks here. It looks great. I feel like maybe that's the secret sauce, like the combination. Like I just don't feel that Byrne and Giordano meshed very well, although I think that Byrne was kind of one of those guys. He had such a reverence for certain artists that he loved being inked by them. Like he loved being inked by Sinnott and Palmer. And at the time, it seemed like such an overpowering thing on Byrne's pencils that I didn't prefer it. But looking back at it now, there's some truly beautiful art and combinations that happen through history. And I've reviewed a lot of them. So check out my channel, bitches, and subscribe. This is so good. I love it. What a great comic trope. Batman's hung. And this, rock is going to slowly distend until, it can't support the weight of his head or whatever, snapping his neck. And then, and luckily they always leave them alone. They're like, you're going to bite the dust, but we're not going to be here for it. And then, so Batman, luckily there's a torch on the wall, and Batman is able to swing on the noose over and pick up the torch with his feet, burn it off, burning his hands at the sign, but hey, burns like the devil, but burns better than, death. And need a moment to catch my breath. I loved when the human elements take over, like, and we do, I feel like there's more reverence to that. Like, I feel like, well, maybe we get, I feel like today it's like him getting shot and then like dragging himself around for 2 pages or something. I don't know, whatever. I'm just talking out of my ass at this point. Once again, the color is gorgeous here. It's so much fun. It looks so chaotic. I love the horror aspect of this whole strange cases. These mesh together so well, and this is so much fun. I'm so glad they are doing these reprints. They are freaking amazing. Story by Denny O'Neil, art by Neil Adams and Dick Giordano, who are a great combination together. So, who else did Dick Giordano ink very well? I wasn't crazy about his inks on Perez, like in the initial Crisis on Infinite Earths. But, I know he's the stuff of legends, so I do love some of his stuff. Like, undeniably gorgeous here, right? And I love these circus freaks. I almost died when I saw this character. 100%. This has to be John Byrne's inspiration for Pink Pearl and Alpha Flight. If you know, you know. The circus. She's big, blonde, fat lady of the circus with a pink outfit, except she's a total bitch. And, this one is very sympathetic. Flippy, the guy with flippers, Bones, and the skeletal man and the fat lady are, in love. And then who is he supposed to be? The other one's, like, jealous. So anyway, I don't know. This is just so great. Flippy can't really communicate. He doesn't have the best motor skills. And, but he will kind of save the day in the end, which is great. The coloring, like, so good, right? Did we say who colored this? Are we not there yet with the coloring credits? Nope. Maybe it was Neil Adams. I feel like Neil Adams could have been, but I'm not sure. That seems like a lot. Although he was doing a lot. He worked in advertising, so he was probably like, we gotta get this done, this and this and this done. Like, very much like a machine. I love some of there's so much thick black juiciness to like the inks here. That is what Giordino gives. This was amazing. This whole page is excellent. The storytelling here is so great. You know, Neil Adams definitely shows what you can do with the format of comics, panel to panel to panel, and then you get Batman punching the guy through the windshield, which is so great. This is so cinematic. Follows the Z formation of guiding your eye across the page in such a magical way. Pink Pearl, watch out. So good. There's something so cinematic, but in a high budget TV movie kind of way. I don't know. It's just kind of fun. Like I said, all the tropes of the towers and the falling, and you know, Flippy saw what happened. Flippy saw that this guy really killed the skinny guy because he really killed Bones because he's in love with Maud, aka Pink Pearl. So Flippy's got to go, and he throws him from the tower. Luckily, Batman is perched here, ready to catch Flippy and save the day, dropping, catching, and in the window in this crazy gorgeous page of layouts like I've never seen before. I mean, this is the stuff of legend here, folks. So good. What a great story. I love it so much. Backward by Mike W. Barr, one of my favorite writers who wrote Batman and the Outsiders, who apparently is suffering from long-term COVID and going through hell with medical bills and stuff, has a GoFundMe now. You should definitely, maybe I'll link it in the description of the video to help, like, DC, help out a legend, right? My gosh. Anyway, poor Mike W. Barr. Don't want to end on a sad note. Flippy and Pink Pearl become a family. This is how he solved the case. Flippy drew that aid, and he knew that it was, Batman figured out that it was barbells, and it must be the strong man. Oh my gosh, whatever, right? The world's greatest detective, y'all. That was so amazing. I loved it so much. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button and keep buying these artifact editions.